We are now 3 for 3 on weather delays so far on the Disc Golf Pro Tour in 2024. A stat crazier than whatever the hell Antil is doing right here. What's up, Degenerates? I'm Jefferson. Alongside me, as always, the one with all the holes in his game, Swiss Cheese. And we're with the Disc Golf World, breaking down everything you need to know from the final round of the Open at Austin. But before we can get into that, I want to address a possible rule change that Jeff Spring along with the DGPT are going to try and work with the PDGA to get implemented for 2025. Every event so far this season has had difficulties with weather, if it be rain or just lightning delays. Thankfully, no wind delays yet. Most of the time, it seems the rounds are able to continue with little issue. However, that can't be said with the past two tournaments. Last week at Waco, after a delay, it resulted in some cards playing in the dark. The round would need to be suspended until the next morning. Some players then needed to wake up early to complete the rest of the holes in the cold and wet. With the major weather problems coming the final day of the event, there was no option to continue the tournament the next day because it would be Monday. That being the case, the DGPT made the decision to cut 3 of the MPO holes out in order to finish the event. Those holes would be 12, 15, and 16, which were some of the easier ones on the course with little scoring separation. And honestly, boring when it comes to some of the other holes on the course. I was actually glad to see the preemptive move by the Pro Tour and taking the initiative instead of sitting back and reacting to the weather. The forecast wasn't a surprise, so there being a plan was a good sign. Overall, I didn't hear any complaints about the decision, and with the sun setting on the final hole, there was no extra time for any holes, so a good thing it didn't go into a playoff. Which reinforces the good decision by the DGPT. Situations like this is where the new rule would come into effect. Essentially, the rule would allow events to finish on Monday in case of weather delays. I had the opportunity to talk to Jeff Spring about it, so here's what he had to say on the subject.
We do react to weather as it happens, even when forecasts are 90 to 100%. Sometimes, you see patterns change. We've got Seth Munsey on site, who's been overseeing our safety program, since 2020. He's got a meteorologist on staff, as well as, all the same resources that NFL, PGA Tour uses. So we trust in those. It does look, like weather will have an impact this week. We are working on changes in coordination with the PDGA to basically make a rule change in the future, hopefully for next year, where we would be able to finish tournaments on Monday if they get impacted instead of shorten the tournament. But right now, hopefully we can get all 54 holes in. If not, I'm hoping as many as we can.
I'm a fan of the idea. Like I said, it gives the Pro Tour the chance to be proactive with weather instead of sitting back and watching it happen. But I want to know what you guys think, so make sure to drop it in the comments below. I could go on about how PDGA Live wasn't working for me the third weekend in a row, but I guess that makes me a whiny little bitch. Hey, your words, not mine. So instead, I'll kick it to Swiss to recap the final round of the FPO.
All those fans going to the course or watching at home, anticipating a weekend watching Kristin Tattar dominate the entire FPO on her way to a victory at yet another tour stop in preparation for her first major victory of the season at this year's USWDGC. Instead, witness Owen Scoggins' complete dismantling of the course like some superhero slinging 14 speeds to anti-perfection for one of the most dominating victories in FPO history. Day 2 saw her score the 5th highest rated round in FPO history at 10.55 rated 13 under round that gave her a 2-stroke lead, only to follow that up with the 13th highest rated round, a 10.42 rated 10 under on the final day. Not even an hour weather delay slowed her down. In fact, the only thing that beat her all weekend was hole 10, which she bogeyed all 3 days. Apart from that, she was simply unstoppable. Not weather conditions, competitors, mud, or South by Southwest couldn't phase Owen. The history doesn't just stop there, however. Her 11th stroke victory over you-know-who, the current greatest FPO player today and possibly ever, was the highest victory since 2021, a 10.29 over the entire tournament, which is the highest average rating ever at an FPO elite or major event. The weekend was so impressive, it'd be easier to list what she didn't finish in the top 5 statistically this weekend. But she was the leader in strokes gained tee to green, C2 putting, and holes parked. At the very least, this narrative should pause the narrative of crowning Tattar with back-to-back Grand Slam seasons, as USWDGC is this week, and we're not even leaving city limits to the next course. This is where Tattar defenders start mumbling about her throwing below her rating, and she was off, ignoring that Owen's putting percentage was below her average. For those Tattar stands, it's not all doom and gloom, and the final round did help get people off the ledge. Tattar was able to finally put together a solid round on the final day, moving from chase card into second place for the tournament. She would go on to score an 8 under round on the final day. That score was better than her day 1 and 2 combined, and most importantly, the final round was bogey-free. She was in control for the round, looked good off the tee and on her approaches, which put her in easier scoring positions on the putting green. Missed a single C1X putt, but otherwise was in position to only see 2 putts beyond 20 feet on the day. To round out the podium, Missy Gannon took advantage of Kat Murch's nosedive of a round. Kat put together a disappointing 6-over final day round. Missy's 2-under round would be enough to hold off both Natalie Ryan and Henna Blumroos for a third-place finish, her second on the season. Missy responded from a 2-over front half to finish the back half clean with 4 birdies. These 3 ladies head into the USWDGC as the favorites behind some of the other buzzworthy players. However, these 3 are above the rest, mainly due to their consistency, which is still on display this early in the season.
Beth at 69.
I just told myself, you just got to will this one in there. Whatever you have, just will it in there.
This man is unbelievable. This is what athletes live for. This is the moment.
As disc golf fans, we were spoiled with the action this past weekend, so much so I haven't heard one complaint about the ball golf course it was played on. To be fair, one of the better courses on tour, when it comes to stick golf courses that is. It seemed everyone else was a fan of the changes as well. Well, everyone besides Gannon. Nicholas Onslow went into the final round with a 2-stroke lead over Burr after a stellar 12-down round. Coming off a second place at Waco and the number of other close calls he's had, most thought this would finally be the event for Onslow. I heard fans even saying they saw Nicholas grinding it the night before at a local course, getting his reps in, and even the next morning pacing the course before his round. It was no surprise that Nicholas wanted this. He even talked in the press conference that he wants to taste the victory in the States and that he feels he's playing at the top of his game, just needs to keep at it. After hot rounds from cards all over, Onslow held his own through the first 5 holes, going 3 down in that stretch. Unfortunately, he would get a double bogey on hole 6, which played as the hardest hole all weekend. Taking an OB stroke on the upshot resulted in the setback. Some counted him out after this, with other names making huge pushes from chasing further down cards. Most people in the moment forget the fact these players are through more holes, but there's no reason for me to burst that bubble for him. I'd rather Nicholas do that for me, as he climbed his way back up, getting the comeback birdie on 8 with a bullseye that properly lightened the mood. But I wouldn't know. The dude doesn't seem to smile even when he's dropping in aces. He then got the birdie on 10, followed with a circle's edge putt for eagle on 11, and another easy 2 on hole 13. At this point, there wasn't a disc golfer watching that wasn't on the edge of their seat, as Kyle Klein would have already finished his round, up 1 stroke on Nicholas with 3 holes left to play. Not only that, but there were other players in the hunt too. Calvin Heimberg was a missed circle's edge putt on hole 18 in the mud from Ty and Klein, without a forehand either, I should mention. Onslow did mention that he is a score checker when it's coming down to the end. I wonder if he checked right before the botched 15-foot putt or not. I would love to know what his mindset was after missing the tying putt, knowing he has to get the next 2 holes in order to win outright. Must have felt fine as he would jam the 46-footer for birdie, tying Klein for first, pushing all the momentum on his side. Going into 18 with all the confidence in the world, and when he found himself 35 out of the basket, dropped in the final birdie putt to secure his first win on tour of his career. Not only that, but becoming the first player from Finland to win a DGPT event. Told you guys he was going to win, and I wasn't even stressing at all. Nicholas finished the round going 6 for 8 from C1X and nailing 3 circle 2 putts in some of the clutchest moments possible. Clearly the fans enjoyed it too. The Nicholas chance might be my favorite moment of the season so far. I'm sure Discmania is happier about this promotion than Casey is about Star Wars Battlefront being out on the Switch, especially when they compare it with Kyle Klein, who's able to snag second after his 2 other top 10s, starting his day off with 3 quick birdies, but the more important stretch was going 8 down through 7 holes in the middle of his round, capping off 5 birdies in a row with a 15-foot putt for eagle on hole 11 and another birdie on 13. They skipped 12 before you comment I messed up. Kyle would be 11 for 12 from C1X and 100% from C2. Sure, it was only 2 putts, but a 65-foot for birdie on 6 deserves some credit. He would finish his round 12 down, and remember, that was only through 15 holes. Makes it even more impressive, right? Klein jumped up 7 spots, and if it wasn't for a poor first round, could have had a better chance for the win. Funny to think Kyle is the last Sky Team member without a dub this season, and that's just inevitable. Calvin Heimberg decided last second to play in the tournament after some lingering arm pain. He competed with the condition of not throwing forehands. He put himself in good position all weekend, and there were only a few occasions a sidearm would have been helpful, costing some strokes. Calvin went perfect from C1X and nailed the 42-footer on 17 to put himself in the spot to attack 18 for a chance to the lead. But with a 10 down final round, he would stay clean up until an OB drive on 18, resulting in his only bogey for the day. Rounding out the top 5, we had a tie at 4th between Gannon and AB, both at 24 down. Borello shot his best on the final day at the shortened track, shooting a 9 under that had plenty of opportunity for better scoring. Although he was able to stay clean throughout the round, which is a positive. Looking at his stats too, I was surprised to see he was 16 for 16 on fairway hits, 8 for 9 in C1X, and only 1 for 6 from outside the circle. AB was a hot step put away from a better finish. Can't really complain about a 1st, 4th, and 4th on the season though, which is the exact same thing you can say about Gannon. Well, 4th, 1st, and 4th, but same diff. Burr would not shoot the round he was looking for with a 7 down, nailing 11 of his 14 putts inside the circle, dropping a couple early that could have been crucial strokes to battle back. Gannon is a very self-aware disc golfer, and knowing there were less holes to make up strokes as he was making mistakes was weighing on him, especially with Burr being one of the players that overthinks the most. I imagine his mind looks somewhat like when SpongeBob forgot his name. But with the weather delay already a big factor, he didn't need anything else on his mind. A 4th place isn't bad though. The question I have is, what is the better season so far? Gannon and AB's win with 2 other top 5s, or Antila's win, a podium, and a top 10? I'm calling it a wash because my brain hurts too much to think about it. But make sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're at it, let me know if you think it's good or bad that these Discmania kids throw all the old plastic that fans can't get. Personally, I don't think it matters all that much, but apparently it's a thing. I feel fans hear Discmania and will buy it regardless. It's why I'm assuming they kept the same naming scheme even though the molds are different. No way you'll catch me throwing the new Power Disc either. Or I guess it's called the Phantom Sword, which isn't even Link's strongest sword, so that's an L. Plus, we're talking about discs that are half the age of these players. Give it some time, and I bet eventually all the old stuff will phase out. I mean, don't you think they're going to switch when their name starts going on more plastic?
Culver Dolan held all the buzz early, especially going 5 under through the first 4 holes. He had all the eyes on him, funny enough, while being on the same card as Klein. You know, the one who nearly won the event? He went 6 under on the front 9 and had the lead while Chase and lead cards were still beginning their rounds. He cooled off on the back half despite his drop zone par putt on 10. However, after a par on 11 followed by a Klein eagle, the buzz and his fire cooled. His 10 under round was good enough to move 5 places up though, to tie for a 6th place finish however. Andrew Marweed put together a 7 under clean round, but with how scoring was being had for the final day, it would still result in him dropping 3 positions into a tie for 6th place. Corey Ellis remained in arm's length from challenging Antela, Klein, and Heimberg for most of the round. Was 5 under on the front, running with AB and Heimberg who were on the same card. That wasn't until his double bogey on 14, which not only knocked him from competing for a victory, but all the way down to an 8th place finish. Chris Dickerson quietly put together an 8 under for now back-to-back top 10 finishes on the early season. Chris put together a 5 under front half and birdied half the remaining back holes. Most importantly was Dickerson leading in both strokes gained in C2 putting and strokes gained putting for the weekend, which should help him push for possible podium finishes if he can maintain his putting stroke. Medio saved his worst performance for the final day with a 5 under on the lead card. His 3 bogeys on the day would be far too costly, especially when only playing 15 holes. Most concerning was him missing from C1X 4 times on the final round, resulting in bogey strokes and missed birdies. This dropped him 6 positions for a 9th place finish. With USW DGC this week, Matty could look to get right with an off week or a light A tier.
Now for some Championship Sunday quick hitters. Tristan Tanner smacks the 415-foot hole 13 for an ace. We saw lots hit this weekend. Drop in the comments which one was your favorite. Joey Buckets throwing it in for birdie on hole 3. Only thing that could have made it better was if it wasn't with a berg. Lori Lightnin shares that he's headed back to Europe after experiencing the worst mental state he's been in. Anthony Barella is the oldest winner this season so far. Let that sink in for you. Chandler Kramer tweaked his hamstring, yet was still able to put his best round together. And that's everything you need to know from Championship Sunday at the Open at Austin. Make sure to subscribe to not miss out on all the Disc Golf World coverage of UF's Women's this week. Let us know your thoughts on the daily recaps in the comments below, but hopefully you've been enjoying them. If you are, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. It's the easiest way to support the channel while we're on the road. Oh, and if you want to know about how Discmania is slowly taking over disc golf, check out the video right here.